Welcome back, everybody, to the Rob and Ace and Rob Show. I'm Ace. With me, as always, is Rob. Today's subject: are you behind in life? This is more towards the men, because to be honest, we don't really have experience with women being behind, because you kind of start off in front and then get to behind. But men are the opposite. We start off behind and we have to work our way forward. So for the dudes out there who, getting older, maybe the 20s are fading away, the 30s are jumping in, and you realize you're not where you wanted to be in life. This is more suited for your taste.
Plus, ladies out there, if we do improve on the men, then there's more men for you.
Yeah, which naturally improves the whole process.
You know what I mean? Like we're trying to fix everybody here.
Yeah, pretty much. But this is us talking to fellas again. Again, we're not just a relationship advice, life coaching advice, all that stuff. We're trying to encompass everything, but mainly just to improve men overall. Because we need it. Let's be honest. The state of men in America is not at the best state as it should be. I'm old school. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. It's a different breed of dude out nowadays. It's a lot of. And I'm all for, having feelings, but it's a lot of overtly sensitive dudes, a lot of dudes that aren't even being righteous with how they feel. Like the whole politically correct stuff. Like most people who say stuff like that, they don't believe it. They're not really into that. They're just saying it because that's what you told you're supposed to say. But that's not man shit. Like man shit is not just doing what you're told to do. It's doing what you feel. It's a feeling. Like, it's the same type of feeling as when you see a pretty woman. We all know what that feeling is. You don't have to be taught that. Nobody has to tell you how to feel about that. And that's how life should be. So for the guys who are behind in life, when you take a look at yourself, this may apply to you, may not. Are you with the woman you want to be with? If a woman at all. Are you making the money you want to make? If you're making money at all. Are you living where you want to live? Are you driving what you want to drive? Are you traveling to where you want to travel to? These are all questions that you got to ask. But the main question is, are you happy with the version of you right now? That's a guttural, balls deep question that you got to look yourself in the mirror. And that guy in the face, is that the guy you want to be? Or do you want to be a better version? And if you want to be a better version, what are the steps to take to get to that level? Like Rob, what do you suggest? You just start us off.
Well, for starters, I think one of the things that sort of squeezes in, like right in there, if I was to just add like a footnote, is a lot of guys are running around here without a purpose. And I do think a lot of guys, regardless of testosterone level, at least straight males, are too concerned with their ability to get women,
which is our detriment. It's like, I always equate it to, it's like being worried about getting a CEO position when you've only worked at Denny's your entire life. Like, you're not qualified. The way I look at it, like if you have no money, why are you looking to get a girlfriend? If you have no status, if you don't have your own place, what do you need a girlfriend for? What are you trying to get a girl for? Like, I understand, you need, that person around, and we all got sexual needs, but you can't even handle yourself. What are you trying to bring somebody else into this? Am I off base on that?
I don't think so. I'm not saying you can't have a girlfriend if a girl is into you and you like her and you happen to not have those things yet, but date her anyway. You know what I mean? Like, don't make that your thing.
Yeah, I'm not even talking like I'm okay with dating. I'm going with the whole trying to have a relationship, trying to have a significant other. Like, I have a nephew who's 22, 23, and he has a a significant other. And I'm like, you're 23. You don't even have a career yet. You don't have a foothold in life. And are you planning to build with this person, or are you just wasting spending time? Like, do you just not want to be alone?
At that age, and if I'm being honest, I would say even myself at that age, and probably you at that age, none of us are really educated on how we're supposed to go on about that if we want to be even close to successful.
Absolutely not. Like, especially in my community, because let's be real. I'm not even gonna. This isn't Rob talking. This is Ace. I'm the black one. Most of us grew up without a father. We didn't have that male presence teaching us what to do at a certain age, so we kind of freelance it. And then we get to a point where you're an adult, you're the age of a man, but you're not a man yet. And when you become a man, you realize the vast canyon of a difference between how you were when you became of age and how you were when you actually became a man. And it's not about having kids and no sappy shit like that. It's not like, oh, I had my son, now I became a man. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you can handle your own, when you're confident in yourself, when you come to your own being. And that takes time. Like, that's not a quick thing. That's not something that happens overnight. That's why I'm saying, like, you shouldn't be worried about a girlfriend. Date, go out on dates, have sex, do what you got to do. Like, get that experience. But getting serious, because a girlfriend is a responsibility. Like, a girlfriend means that's somebody you plan on taking care of. That's somebody who's on the path to, marriage. That's not
what they're told today. That's the thing. Everyone's fed this 50-50 thing. So now girls are boss babes, and they're fed the same thing. Like, men and women are both fed the same narrative here, which is a false narrative. It doesn't help either of them. And so they are told, if you don't have your stuff together, which at 22 you're not going to have that. But the crazy thing is, I am seeing a lot of 22-year-old women who are like, they're ahead of the game in that same sense.
Because they have to be.
They're on their way in careers, which there used to be a time when a 22-year-old male was on his way into that. And today it's like the stunted growth we're seeing in guys that we're not seeing with girls. Because on the flip side, so what we have, if you look at college education, 67% of college graduates are female, right? So where does that leave the men who are graduating? Now, on top of which, the degrees they're taking are not in the STEM fields for the most part. So they're not really entering these careers that are going to make them a ton of money, but they just think that having the degree should be getting them a career. On the flip side, we tell guys, that you have to, finish college, and we're not saying go to a trade school for something. We're not saying get a license in something to get their careers going. So it's like we're deliberately leaving males in the dust. And that even starts.
Why? You know why that men are leaning towards those careers and not looking into trades and not doing stuff like blue collar work, for lack of a better term, because it's been pushed that that's beneath us.
Yeah.
When that's what built this fucking country.
The jobs that basically allow you to use your toilet.
Like, literally, if these people didn't exist, you couldn't turn on the water faucet and have water come out, but instead of sludge.
You couldn't work more than 5 blocks away.
But that's what's portrayed. It's part of media, but it's part of the single mom syndrome. Like, it's not that women are doing a bad job, but let's look at it from a woman's point of view. If I'm a single mom and I'm raising a daughter, do I want her to struggle as much as I did? No. So I'm going to push her to go to college. I'm going to push her to be independent. I'm going to push her to be on her own. I'm going to push her to, in case it happens, she can still be okay and not struggle like I did. And on the flip side, if I'm a single mother raising a boy, what the fuck do I know about raising a boy? I'm not a boy. Only men. Ladies, this
Do
is a
not know how to
misogyny.
raise boys into men.
This is a misogyny. Men raise men. Women raise women. If you ever seen a female raised by a single dad, that's a butch dude. That's a masculine female, because that's all we know.
Yep.
And on the flip side, if you see a woman raising a boy, you get one of two outcomes. You get a feminine man or a overcompensatingly masculine man. It generally doesn't fall anywhere in between. Those two outcomes are not healthy outcomes.
Or a criminal.
I'm not even saying criminal, just an overly compensating. Like, we all know a dude.
Oh, I'll say
much
it.
Of a dude.
I'll say it because over 80% of all male prison inmates were raised in a single parent household, majority of which is a single mom household. So I will say it. Yes, single moms tend to raise criminals.
And that is true. The reason I'm saying I'm not even going to go that far, because even if the guy doesn't turn to crime, even if the guy doesn't become a criminal or get locked up or anything like that, we all know guys who are too much of a fucking guy. Like, you're overcompensating for something.
Of course.
Like, we all know that dude who's like, yo, nobody's that masculine. No one has that much testosterone.
Right.
Relax.
And this person is like they don't have that much testosterone. They're pretending.
They're overcompensated. That's my point. And what happens is those two guys get to adulthood with no male figures, and they get left behind. Whereas the women, like you just said, are on the path that we should be on. Like, I will be the first person to admit I didn't graduate college on purpose. I regret it now. When I was younger, it actually worked out for me. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm doing very well for myself, even not having a college degree. Would doors have opened up sooner if I had a college? Yes, absolutely. Would more doors be opened up now? Probably. Sure, maybe. But when you're younger, especially as a guy, my whole thing was I got to get money fast. I can go to school and not make money for 4 years, or I can get into the workforce, ply a trade, and make money right now. And that's what I chose. And that's what a lot of guys are choosing. Even the ones who are getting degrees, you're getting degrees in nonsense. What is a human arts degree going to do? What is a liberal arts or a degree in American history or a degree in
gender studies,
literature, gender studies, or human resources? These are not fields dominated by men. They're dominated by women. There's a reason for that. We're not really built for those jobs. But there's a lot of guys getting degrees in those nonsense categories. And then they end up working at Arby's. And then they end up working at a 9-to-5 dead-end job, which doesn't have anything to do with their degree, and they get stuck in a rut.
And I want to build on what you just said, because that's a huge thing. They get stuck in this rut and they end up working this dead-end job, but they want to get another job, right? I see guys do this all the time. They're applying for new jobs, right? And none of them are applying for a CDL license because they think
I was just about to get into that.
They're too good to be truck drivers. Want to know why? Because they've never met a truck driver. And I started meeting truck drivers when I was at my first gym job, and I saw so many guys who were working out like to stay in shape, and a lot of them were truck drivers, and they made a ton of money.
What most Americans, I'm not going to say men or women, just Americans in general, don't realize that the average certified plumber, not a guy who's just doing handiwork, but certified plumber, makes close to 100,000, if not more, every year, easily. Especially if he owns his own business, add 60, 70, 80, 90,000 to that. Licensed electrician, licensed, like you just said, CDL driver.
You could be a plumber in a small town, and you might be one of only a couple of plumbers there. Guess what? The entire town is your customer.
But the problem is this: with today's society, who wants to be a plumber? How glamorous is being a plumber?
Right.
You're literally waiting in shit every day. How glamorous is being a garbage man? Because what's crazy is there are garbage men in our state and New York, because we're in New Jersey and New York, who make twice as much as dudes with college degrees. But you're dealing with garbage and smell and disgustingness all day, but you're being paid twice. People aim for the glamorous job as opposed to the job that's going to get you from A to B. That's where I wanted to go with this. If you're in, like you just said, if there are guys who want to get out of the rut, they want to do the job they're doing, but they don't want to really do it forever. They want to transition to what they really want to do. So for those guys, because these are the guys that we're talking about who are behind in life, find your passion. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a passion in life, but use the correct method to get there. If you're going to be miserable at work, be miserable making six figures. Be miserable making good money. Don't be miserable in a garbage job. Get your even if you don't plan on being a long haul trucker forever, get your CDL license, do it for 5 years, stack up money, and then do what you want to do.
In the time you're doing that, you can learn how to invest. You can learn.
You can go to night school for that. You can do online classes for that. You can go, like, there's places like DeVry and those
University of Phoenix.
Yeah, like they give you courses where you can do that stuff while doing the garbage job to transition to a better job. And that may not be what you want to do forever, but it's much better than doing nonsense. It's a funny story, and I'm going to share it. I don't know if you want to share it, but I'm going to share it. I used to be a supervisor / manager at this call center, and there was two guys that worked there. That if there were twins. If you didn't know them from anybody, you would not have noticed them. 3 years, they worked there for years. I mean, they worked there for a little while, and they would always be exhausted. And it turns out they were doing stand-up comedy after leaving work. So they would leave work in New Jersey, drive to New York, and do stand-up comedy. And they did that until they started to make real money. They used the garbage job to get to what they wanted to do. That's escalating. I'm not going to say who they are. I'm not going to go into it. I mean, if you're twins in stand-up comedy, it's not that many to pick from. So you guys can probably figure it out.
Right. I can't even remember their the name that they go by.
I do, because they're super famous now.
Yeah.
But my point is, that's the perfect example of what you just talked about. You got two guys who knew they didn't want to do what they were doing currently, but they put in the extra effort to do what they wanted to do professionally, to do their passion. And then that passion escalated to another passion they're doing now.
But I'll be real here, because with what they happen to be doing, the job that they had also like allowed them to exercise, like they were doing sales. You got to have the gift of gab. You got to be able to talk to people. You got to get over that nervousness. They had a good job to almost constantly be practicing.
Yeah, but you know what that job also did? It gave them flexibility.
Yes.
It gave them the option to move. Like, they were making good, decent money. Not great, not terrible, but decent money. And they could also go to do what they wanted to do afterwards. That's what a lot of our youth doesn't do. Like, you always see these hashtags, I'm always grinding, I'm always working. But you're posting that from home. You're not working. There's been a pandemic for the past year and a half. There's so many people out of work. And every time I see it, you know what I'm like? Well, McDonald's is hiring. The post office is always hiring. Burger King, Arby's, Taco Bell, all these places they never stopped hiring.
Food delivery is at its highest since this.
Uber never stopped hiring drivers. Uber Eats, the separate branch, never stopped hiring delivery people. There's work. It's, are you willing to do the work? That's what we're talking about as far as leveling up. You don't have to get into your passion immediately. If you're in a dead end job, don't make it be a dead end. Use it for what it is, a road stop. You can take that dead end job and switch it into something else, but you got to use it for what it's for. And that goes into something I've talked about, numerous times. If you're in your 20s, what the fuck are you working 40 hours a week for? Like, what are you doing with the rest of your time? Because That's time you could be putting in getting more money to have more freedom. When you're young, you think that money is the most valuable commodity you have. And when you get older, you realize the most valuable commodity you have ain't money, it's time.
Fact.
Now you can spend half the time and make half the money and still have a bunch of free time to do what you want to do. Or you could spend those early years building up that nest egg, building up that wealth, building up that money to get out of that roadblock. So that way, when you're later in life, you have more free time. You have the ability to do other stuff. You have the ability to be at your kid's soccer practice or whatever. That's what you should be doing. Like, I hate when I see a young guy clock in at 8 and clock out at 5. Like, what are you doing for the rest of the day? You're just going to go home and play video games probably.
Yep.
Or you're going to go to your boy's house and smoke weed and hope you don't get piss tested at the job. Like, you're wasting time, which is the most valuable commodity. You're not wasting money. What you may be doing if you're going out, you're wasting time. You could take all of that extra time and put it into a second job. You could go from your regular 9-to-5 job and then drive Uber for 4 more hours. That's 20 hours if you do it for 5 days. That's 20 hours worth of fares in Uber, which is going to equate to probably half of the check you're making anyway. You just leveled up right there. You bank that money, and like, we're going to get into, financial advice in the next episode of what to do with money once you have it. But these are things you got to do. The second thing is, if you're behind in life socially, like we already talked about monetarily, socially, the first thing you got to do is recognize that you're an awkward fucking dude. Like, here's a test. Can you hold a conversation for 10 minutes? If you have to think about the answer or the answer is no, you're socially awkward. Conversations aren't work. This ain't judo. This ain't chess. You shouldn't have to think to have a conversation. It should be something naturally you can do. So if you can't do that, Rob, I'll give you some days and you give me some ways. What are some ways you think you can get out of being that socially awkward guy? The quote unquote nerd, how everybody views them.
Oh man. That one's tough. I mean, I guess when I broke out of being socially awkward, and I think here's one thing: when you break out of being socially awkward, it comes back from time to time. There's going to be situations where you're still going to be like, I'm not comfortable and I don't really feel like talking to people. And I'm a very introverted person, or I can be, which is awkward for a guy in sales. But I think the fact that I had done so many jobs in sales and customer service, I think that's what forces you to stop being socially awkward. Even back when I was 19, I was a clerk at a drugstore, and I was at a liquor store. Actually, there was a drugstore on the one side of the store.
We get it. You're from the hood. We got it. Drugstore. We got it.
And it never occurred to me till many years later. I was like, why would a liquor store hire a 19-year-old who can't drink? You know what I mean? So bottom line is they needed someone to work the register. So day in and day out, I'm talking to people who like drinking. And I'm not much of a drinker. So I don't have a lot in common with them, but I don't have a choice. I got to talk to them. And so I think, the drive to make some money should be at least big enough where you're willing to take a job where you have to talk to people. And I think that is more on the technical side of what kind of advice I would give to someone who might be socially awkward.
But the thing is, you hit it on the head even without even trying, which is fantastic for you. Kudos. If you're awkward in an area, it's like any muscle. If your biceps aren't big, what do? You go to a gym and work them out. If your legs aren't as diesel as you want or as defined as you want, what do? You go to a gym and work out.
Legs.
Your social skill is a muscle.
Yeah.
If you aren't constantly pushing it, it's going to atrophy. Like you said, that social awkwardness is going to come back. There's very few people in the world who just have the gift of gab. Let's be real. Like, there's very few people who can like the old thing of standing up in front of a crowd and talking to them without feeling that anxious anxiety.
Everything is practice. Everything is practice. So it's like you just said, it's a muscle. It's your brain is a muscle.
Yeah, the more you do it, the less awkward it feels.
Right. It's the same as picking up a musical instrument or trying to learn Spanish or another language. It's if you don't practice, you will always end up at a certain point from when you stopped practicing.
And don't think like, okay, I'm not as good as my friend who's a ladies' man, or I'm not as good. Don't compare yourself to other people. You're doing it for you, just like anything in life.
Right.
You don't do it for other people. You do it for yourself.
You can't be jealous of the naturals.
Yeah. Like I used to tell people all the time at my sales job, I was always top 10. I was always making, 6 figures, doing what I'm doing. And I would say, don't compare yourself to me. Like your job is not to be me. Your job is to be the best you. And if that's not better than me, okay, that's fine. Just keep trying to get better until the point where you are the best you. This is what a lot of guys get into the rut of. You're comparing yourself to nonsense. Like a lot of guys are behind because of the social media garbage. Like you open up your phone and you see dudes stunting on Instagram with the famous money phone picture where they have a lot of cash, or the guys, but you see people driving fancy cars and they're young. Majority of those people don't have money. We learned that lesson growing up a long time with rap. Like when we were growing up, we all thought rappers had crazy money. And then we realized half the rappers we idolized were broke and didn't have much money. One of the greatest hip hop groups of all time.
I love this story.
I'm old. So if you don't know who they are, look them up, educate yourself. If you don't know music, that's your problem.
Take yourself on a musical journey.
If you don't know Tribe Called Quest, I apologize for you.
Yeah.
But they broke up because they had one of the worst record deals in history. This is one of the top hip hop groups of all time. Hands down, bar none, not even close. And they broke up because of money, because they weren't making any. They were doing tours, they were selling out arenas, but they had garbage money. They weren't getting paid well.
One of them did an interview and they said, like, at the height of their popularity, it was right around Midnight Marauders, one of their best albums.
Just the best album. One of the best albums. Don't have to put there. One of the best albums, period.
So good. But they were sleeping on friends' couches.
Yeah.
Friends and relatives' couches.
Everybody knows who Diddy is.
They had someone on the radio at the time. I'm not talking about like this is like an indie rap. Like this is back when half of rap was conscious and the other half was gangster. And these guys were getting solid, regular, constant airplay at the time. And they were on their friends' couches.
Yeah, they were on their couch. They were on their friends' couches. But even better example, Diddy, Bad Boy Records. One of the most infamous rap labels of all time. If you haven't heard of it, I don't know where you're from or where you're going, but educate yourself.
Can't stop.
If we all know Diddy right now, multimillionaire, probably a billionaire, one of the few black billionaires in the world, mogul, but he started with Bad Boy Records. And when we grew up, he had all the hot acts. He had Craig Mack, he had the Lox, he had Biggie, the Notorious Big, he had Carl Thomas, he had Loon, he had Black Rob, Faith Evans, and all the big acts were signed to him. And we all saw them shining. We used to call him the shiny suit man because every video he had on something shiny, and they would drive the nicest cars. They would have the chains, the herringbone chains, the best clothes. And what we didn't find out is 90% of his artists were broke. That was all rented. That was all leased. They didn't own any of it. Like he was giving out notoriously garbage deals as a music producer, as an executive. He was known for giving out garbage, bad deals. So we're looking at these guys like, yo, they got all the money. No, they really didn't have money. Like Method Man said it best recently. He was like, how do these young rap dudes, where are they getting all this money from? Because I remember when I was growing up, you didn't get money like that. That hasn't changed. As a young guy, if you're looking on Instagram and you see these young artists, showing off fancy jewelry, showing off all this money, realize that 90% of the people you see doing that don't have any money. Let me break down how a record deal works. And if you don't believe me, look up a YouTube interview T-Pain did. When you get your advance, that's all it is, an advance. You have to pay that money back to get to zero. Then you start making money. So if you sign a record deal and you get a $300,000 advance, you're negative $300,000. You don't have any money. So you see them shining, you see them throwing up all these chains and the crazy cars. Put that in your head. You shouldn't be comparing yourself to them because they're worse off than you 9 times out of 10. That's why independent labels are all the rage right now. Every time these rappers would show up with, a Porsche or a Lamborghini, all that stuff, that's not theirs. You can go to exoticcars.com and rent one right now. It's not that much money. You can go to Miami with you and your boys.
I'm about to go to exoticcars.com right now.
You can go to Miami. I'm literally not joking. You can go to Miami. There's an exotic car dealership down there. You can lease a Lamborghini for $6,000 for a week and drive around Miami. And everybody thinks you have Lamborghini money. No, you have Lamborghini rental money. That's not yours. There was a big story a couple of months ago, like Quavo and Saweetie. I don't even know who these people are, but I remember the story. I've never listened to any of their music. Like, I know Migos are hot. Never heard a song from. But there was a story. They broke up, and he repossessed a $300,000 car he got her. And everybody's like, "Oh, he's so terrible. Why would he do that?" And he was like, "No, I didn't." You want to know why he said I didn't? Because he didn't fucking own it. He was leasing it. It was in his name. He didn't give it to her. He let her drive it. You don't repossess something you own. It's yours. And he didn't own it. He was leasing it. Remember, this is part of the Migos, one of the biggest rap groups out right now. And he's still leasing that super expensive car. Why? Because it's the smart thing to do. Everybody thinks,
I don't care if he bought it outright in cash and he took it back. It's not her car. He bought it. He gets the ticket.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. People looked at it like, oh, he bought it outright in cash. No, that's dumb. That's a waste of money. He knows better than that. But the youth doesn't. The people that we're talking about, the guys who have left behind, they don't. They think that that's what you do. When that's one of the worst investments you can do. You can buy a shitty car. That's a great investment because all you're doing is you're not making payments every month. But you buy a car that's worth over $100,000, you just wasted $100,000. That's a depreciating asset.
Oh my God. I don't even want. Oh, cars.
We'll go more into the finances stuff on the next episode because we're gonna do a follow-up to the level up on the next one.
Yeah.
But for the guys that are behind, stop competing with others. That's the worst thing you can do. That's my final lesson because we're gonna go back to this, periodically, just like we do with the level up episodes. The worst thing you can do as a young guy is try to compete with other people. That's not your job. You're not here to compete with anybody but yourself. If you are trying to compete, first of all, let's be real. If you're trying to compete with dudes that are established, you're going to lose every time. Because big bank always takes little bank.
You don't start your boxing career in the main event.
Yeah, you start off in the amateurs. You work in the mailroom and get up to CEO level. You don't start with the front office. So don't compete with people that are established. And then when you're looking at those Instagram posts, when you're looking at those Facebook or TikToks, all that stuff, realize that most of those guys don't have the money you think they do. You're not competing with them. Like I said, I gave you a quick music industry lesson. I am not in the music industry, but I read and I listen and I observe. If you talk to any well-known artist, they will tell you exactly what I just said. Whatever you make in advance is the money the label is lending you to get on your feet. That money is supposed to be paid back. That's when you start making money. Once you get to zero, that's when the money starts to be yours. Until that point, you didn't make a dime. I don't care how many albums you sold.
That means you have to sell you have to make sure you sell in order to get to that point.
That's why again we talked about all these rappers that we grew up with came out broke because they signed deals getting big advances thinking they were getting money, not realizing that money had to be paid back. It's the same way as getting a loan from a bank. The bank wants that money back. You can go to a bank with a 750 credit score right now with a BS business plan you could probably download off the internet and get a quick $300,000 loan. And you can go to all your friends and put the money phone up to your ear, be like, yo, I'm stunting, I got all this dough. And you can buy a big gold chain worth $15,000, and you can buy the brand new Yeezys, and you can do all the stuff that you see all these rappers and Instagram influencers do. The difference is the banks was like, hey, that 300,000, when we gonna get that back? Because interest is adding.
Yep.
It's the same process.
And they penalize you if you all of a sudden come into money and you say, well, I'll just pay it all off now. They're going to be like, well, now the interest is more because you were supposed to do it in payments. That was not a part of it.
We signed a contract where you were going to pay this much each month and this was going to be the interest. You decided to break the contract by paying more. So now you end up owing more. You don't have a good lawyer. You don't know things.
The house always wins.
As a former gambling problem person, yes, former gambling addict, I will say that is
degenerate.
True. I was on the border of degenerate. Degenerates don't quit. I was on the board. I had 4 toes into degeneracy. That last pinky toe saved me.
The dude in the suit who was like, well, you need to pay this off now, kind of shook you up.
In all honesty, this is what saved me. I probably told you a story. I don't know if I did or not.
No, I actually don't know a lot about your history.
I added up my losses for a year, which is something you should never do if you like gambling. If you like gambling, don't do that. But if you realize like it's a problem and you do that, you're going to stop immediately. It was well over $20,000
Jesus
in 1 year. That's when I was like, yeah, I can't. I got to stop doing this. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah,
because money is relative. If I was making 2 million, 20 grand's not that much. I wasn't making 2 million. That was a quarter of my income. A quarter of my income went away off of poker and nonsense.
Yeah.
So I stopped. But that's part of learning. That's part of looking in the mirror, seeing your deficiencies and rectifying them, just like the topic we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this one up.
If I had one final piece of advice,
hit him
on this topic. Paper and pen, very powerful tool. You're never going to stop using it. I don't care what technology comes out. We are going to always at some point need a paper and pen to write things down from time to time. And every guy listening should write down their goals. And they can't just be like, oh, be a millionaire by in 3 years. No, you're an idiot. It's got to be tangible stuff. You have to really look inward, see what you want to do, and build goals off of that. Start with short-term goals, turn it into long-term goals. And in those goals, and this is not meant to offend women at all, because again, I reiterate, we're doing this actually to build better men, to make more eligible men for you women to go out with. Women should not be on that list. If you write down these goals and they are on that list, you have a problem because you are being controlled. You are being influenced by the masses. You are being influenced by the outside sources, that the stuff that's making women still buy magazines like Cosmo, the economy that is built on single women and simp behavior. You're being influenced by that if women are part of that goal list.
For one simple reason. This is going to sound, again, Buckley's time. This is going to take a spoonful of sugar, a spoonful of syrup, ladies, if you don't want to, hear this, but it has to be said. The reason that is the way that it is, the reason women shouldn't be one of your goals is because men, you're the goal. You're the prize. You're the catch. When you see a hot 23-year-old, she's going to be hot for what, 15, 20 more years at best? when you see a wealthy 30-year-old, he's going to be wealthy forever. His wealth doesn't depreciate. Beauty, looks, all that stuff, that depreciates over time, ladies. The wall is undefeated. I don't care how many times you fight it, whatever stones and cannonballs you throw against it, the wall is the wall. It's not moving. We are. So, guys, realize that you're the prize. You shouldn't put a female on the list. That shouldn't be the goal. The goal is to be a better you. And when that better you arrives, the females will arrive with them. The women I can get now, as opposed to women I can get when I was 22, when I was in shape, when I didn't have dad bod, vast difference. 22-year-old me would look at me like I was a pimp. But I got the resources now. That's why. So, anything more to add, Rob?
No, that was my my final thought.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up, guys. Like, subscribe, hit all those buttons you got to do on YouTube. We're gonna be back soon with another podcast, going more into depth on financial literacy and things of that nature. But until then, I'm Ace. This is Rob. Always welcome back to us. We'll be back soon. See y'all. We're gonna see you.